is the mic?
Right here.
Okay.
So, well, the mic I've actually had for a super long time. I used to record music a lot in high school. And
Cool.
it's just a condenser mic for vocals, but I finally got like an interface and a shock mount for it and all that. So instead of just sitting in a closet, I can actually use it.
Use it, yeah.
Sound the best on my Zoom meetings, yeah.
I know. Yeah, I debate about using this for Zoom meetings because it's like slightly inconvenient. I don't need it, but it's also not that inconvenient. So I have never used it. I always use these, and then I've started to use it recently just to seem more official, I guess. Well, yeah, like especially if I'm talking to potential sponsors.
Oh yeah.
Because people comment on like the background and stuff, and now I get to be like, I also sound good.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Zoom calls for me get the worst. I'll show you what they get.
I don't know
they
if
get
you want
this
to share
action.
all that. Oh, I've never. Amy, you posted a picture of your desk setup the other day. I've never seen your actual desk
really?
from the looking at it. Yeah.
Yep. They're my favorite comments were people trying to guess how many cups of coffee that accounted for.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I have that problem too.
Yeah. I've got one little iced coffee cup and then water. Niraj hanging out on YouTube. What's up? This is gonna be a quick one, so we can get started. This is career conversations, but I think like Scott Hanselman, I think has been the biggest influencer in this. Of like he always talks about the limited amount of keystrokes that you have, like in terms of like writing answers to people. So as people potentially want to ask me questions or want to have a conversation about something, I am trying, and there's only so many of these I can do too, but I'm trying to make it public so that like those answers are available for everyone out there. So in the chat, someone's asking what today's topic is. So Jacob had reached out and said that he was looking to start streaming and wanted to know if I could answer some questions. And so that's the general topic, is just like streaming setup, benefits of career, maybe kind of wherever you want to take it. But do you want to? And then, well, I guess I've also got Amy with me too. So Amy, do you want to introduce yourself just in case? But we're on stream a lot.
The official. Hello, yes. My name is Amy Dutton, and I am the director of design at Zeal. But I also stream every once in a while. I did a really good job like a year ago streaming every day, which was really fun. And that's kind of one of my goals in 2023 is to get back into it. I loved it.
Nice.
And
I've actually, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, honestly, I found it to be easier to stream every day than just to stream sporadically because having that normal cadence and knowing that I've got to show up. Yep. Made a big difference than like trying to decide, do I want to do it today? Maybe.
Yeah, fair enough. I've actually been doing basically every day between the career conversations and working on the Learn, Build, Teach Discord bot and website with Smoking and Superbase. It's been a ton of fun working on that.
Do you? I can ask questions too, right?
Sure. Well, Jacob, Jacob, do you want to introduce yourself really quickly for everybody that's here?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, my name is Jacob Størdahl. I'm a software engineer at Størdahl. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Mainly write JavaScript.
Easy. Yeah. Well, this is not the way it's supposed to go, but Amy, do you want to ask the first question?
Yeah, I do. I was going to ask, do you feel like you're productive? Like when you get on stream and you're working on something live?
Oh, that's a great question. Yes, I do. It can be infinitely helpful to have people in the chat because there are some things that I could get tied up on for minutes at a time that like they're just like, oh, you need to install this or like whatever it is. So if you have the right people in there that are contributing and like paying attention, it can be super, like it can be more productive. So there's definitely benefits to that. And I don't get distracted enough to not do the work. I think it is kind of hard to talk that long. Like you stream for an hour, 2 hours and you're talking the whole time. That's kind of a challenge, but
yeah, I found it to be a little bit of both. So there were some days where, and I think that's probably more early on, I call it like streamer brain, where you're trying to work through a problem. And because you're streaming, you're like, oh goodness, people are watching me code. What are they thinking or whatnot? Am I doing this the right way? That you don't necessarily think through things the same way that you would if the camera was off. So I'd had moments where I was like, okay, I'll figure this out later. And then as soon as I turned the camera off, I was like, that was dumb. I know exactly what the problem is. But you're right. It is great when you can have people looking over your shoulder to catch like, oh, you missed a semicolon or you spelled your variable wrong. So that is helpful. I think also just the accountability, knowing like I've got to show up and work and people are expecting this and this is the amount that I want to accomplish. And I don't know how you are, James, but I've also found it helpful. Like if I have an ending time, like I know that I've got to go at this time, and that way I'm just not like, well, we've got to figure out this problem. Gonna be here a while.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I guess that leads into that. So this is kind of my whole idea. I was spending so much time at work. All the code I'm writing at work is closed source. Like our stuff's not open source. And so like GitHub and my open source project has always been how I got interviews. Like I don't really have a portfolio website outside of my blog. I feel like showing my code on GitHub is the best way to show people what I can do. But I have all these side projects and there's stuff that I'm really excited about, but I'm struggling to find time to work on them. And so I was like, what if I did a bi-monthly stream every other Saturday morning and I just built open source my side projects on stream, because it will, like Amy's saying, it will force me to spend that time to do it. And potentially the other thing that I would love to do is to have a situation where I can sort of provide an environment for learning devs, particularly self-taught devs that are currently learning, to contribute and like ask questions and, even hop on the stream and like pair program on stuff and like providing a way for people to contribute to open source. I find most people I talk to are like, open source is so intimidating because I don't know what I can do that's meaningful. And so I think that, that's something I'm really interested in, because that's the whole reason I'm employed as a software engineer now, is because of open source and projects like Svelte. So yeah, that's kind of like the idea. I guess, what are y'all's initial thoughts about that in general?
Yeah, I think it's great.
And I talk about it. Did you want to add more? Sorry.
It's fine. It's great.
It's great.
It also helped me even just like working on it, but I wanted to work on it more. So I don't know how you are, James, but a lot of times the hardest part is just getting started. And so even if I would just start on stream, then I was more likely to find time later in the day to work on it, just because that's where my brain is at.
Yeah, it's definitely been a motivating factor for me, just having a fun project to work on. But I think, so I talk about this all the time, like portfolios. People think of a portfolio traditionally as like, here's a website, here are the 5 projects I have on GitHub with these technologies, and you can go look at. But the reality is as a developer, as anything, like your portfolio is really whatever is the most relevant for you. So my portfolio is YouTube. Like if you want to know if I know technical stuff, if you want to know if I know how to teach, if you want to know if I know how to communicate, go watch one of like 500 videos that I have on YouTube. So that obviously like has more weight, having had a reputation and audience around it. But like that could be part of your portfolio, is like, hey, you want to know if I understand SvelteKit or whatever this other technology is, here's a stream that I did. Like we could sit here and like talk about it after the fact. I could tell you a little bit about maybe some things I would change or how I learned a certain thing or whatever. But I think that can be really good proof. And you kind of have to think about, how do you actually portray that on a resume or in a conversation? Like how do you communicate that the value of those streams to make sure people know, like, go watch this if you want to know X, Y, and Z about me. The other thing I would think about is you mentioned kind of the idea of working on these projects that you're excited about, but then also the idea of mentoring more learning devs. And I think those could be 2 very separate things. And to Amy's question earlier about getting distracted and not being as productive, I think you need to think about how that could make you less productive in the sense of getting stuff done on the project that you want to work on, and just decide which of those are the priorities. And if it's okay for both of them to be the priority, and it's okay for like the mentorship with a junior dev to bring them on stream and pair program, to sacrifice the amount of progress that you would have made otherwise. But again, like if you kind of think through like what are the things I want this to represent for me, one of those things could be technical. One of those things could also be, I'm a good mentor. Like I enjoy doing this. That's one of the things that I talk about in interviews of like, why should we hire you? Well, naturally, I'm a teacher. Go look at all the things I've done to teach. So if you bring me on your team, I'm going to make your overall team better. I'm not just going to do me.
Mhm.
I'm going to help everybody get better at the thing that we're working on. So just think through like how much time are you willing to sacrifice for that? Maybe that's 2 different streams. Maybe every other week it's bringing on a junior or every other stream or like whatever it is. But just something to think about where you're bringing on people, mentoring them would take away from the traditional productiveness that you would have working on those side projects.
Nice. Yeah, I do really like that idea. I like the idea of, yeah, every other stream,
Mhm.
working on something, talking about a feature, asking people to submit pull requests,
Yeah.
and then the next week having them on and reviewing those on stream and giving code feedback. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Because yeah, the other main motivator here to me is that I've always been interested in developer relations and developer advocacy roles.
Yep.
You know, my college degree, I have extensive experience with video production specifically, and so I feel like my skill sets in general are really well suited for DevRel. I've also done a lot of writing, and so I was like, how can I actually create this content and not have it be like a burden, you know, on me?
Yep.
Like, it's not something I do at my job now. And so what's like a lower effort way to do that? And I felt like streaming was a really good solution, because I mean, when I was doing video production, like pre-production, recording, post-production, that takes so much time to like put a YouTube video together. I'm sure both of you are well aware. But to just hop on a
Yep.
stream and do it and post the VOD and nothing else is like, that's something I can actually do regularly while I'm working a full-time job, which, yeah, that was one of my questions, is how have both of you managed, you know, James, previously when you had a separate full-time job plus running your own YouTube channel, and like how do you manage that? Any tips or advice in general?
Yep.
Go ahead.
So, for me, when I was streaming a lot, it was, again, just actually doing it every day. Like I said, I found that to be easier than trying to pick a time or maintain a, I don't know, random cadence. And what's interesting is we had, oh man, I'm going to butcher his last name. Who did we interview on Friday? James Chris Fernandy.
Ferdinandi. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I got close.
Yes.
He was saying, because I was asking him about his writing habit, and he said that he talked to a business coach and they were like, write every day. And he's like, I don't want to. And he said, nope, it's easier if you write every day than if you just
'Cause
do
you
whatever
just
cadence.
know that's the thing.
Yeah, that's the thing you do. And so he was really challenging to me. But, you know, setting aside that time. So for me, it was getting that hour in before work. And I knew I had to stand up at 10 Central every day. I'm going to make sure that I cut it off right there. And that made a huge difference. The other thing is my team and the company that I work for is just really supportive. So they've encouraged me to, you know, be public and do things out in the open. And fortunately, that's worked out really well for us and really well for me. So that's also made a difference.
Yep. All the same things. I think, like, Amy, your people probably get it more than a lot of companies do, like the benefit of you being in public. That doesn't mean that for companies that don't get it, that you can explain it to them and still advocate for yourself. Because like one of the things I'm a big advocate of is people should have built-in learning time in their schedule, an hour a day or 3 hours a week or whatever it is. That should be part of your schedule as a regular employee at a company. And that's not very common, I wouldn't say, but it's something that you can advocate for. And that learning time could be spent streaming. And you can talk about like the benefits of how you learn and how you kind of gain some awareness for yourself, and you can talk about the company that you work at and all those things. So I think that's worth like advocating for. For consistency, the number one thing that I always talk about is just doing stuff that's fun. Like if you're trying to work a full-time job and you're forcing yourself to create content that you don't want to do, it's an easy road to burnout. Like it's just not the most stress I ever get is stuff that I work on that I'm just not naturally excited about. And so I try to limit that to like, I shouldn't take on videos, whether it be sponsored or just stuff that people are asking for. I shouldn't do that unless it's stuff that I'm genuinely excited about. So I would take like a couple hours before work. Like typically Jess would start work at 7:30 or 8. And I wouldn't start official work typically until 9. So I would have an hour and a half in the morning to just do my own thing. And then I started to get more selfish. In DevRel, you can, it's a lot easier, right, to combine work time with personal time because it's all beneficial. Because if I get better at writing code, or creating a video on my own time or for personal content, I'm still going to be better at doing that for the job. And then, like, my brand is part of the reason why a company would hire me, right? So it's still beneficial for me to grow my own brand while working for the company. So I was able to kind of mix in some of that too. But I think the number one thing is just like doing stuff that you enjoy and not doing stuff that you don't enjoy.
At Zeal, we also have a channel that we stream from like every Friday. So sometimes Eric Guzman will pop in. We've also interviewed him on Compressed FM, and he runs that on Fridays, which
I didn't know that.
maybe that's an option.
Yeah, I didn't. So you have a Zeal channel?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Who runs it
on
if
Twitch,
not Eric?
Just
Like,
Eric.
Okay, so it's just
the only
him?
one.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm sure more people could contribute if they wanted to. Just
Yeah.
It's usually him, but he has been so consistent. I mean, he's been doing it pretty much since the day he was hired, every Friday.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I
Anytime.
would love to see something like that at Stylytics. We have so many engineers. Like we have a weekly hangout on Tuesdays where we just chat, and I like even just in those like hours, I've learned so much from these like extremely talented engineers.
Yep.
And that's the other thing too is I joined Stylytics and I started to think, well, what does developer relations look like for a B2B company, right? Like we're not like a SaaS platform that you can go sign up for a developer account and start playing around today, which is a lot of DevRel roles that I see are companies like that. And I think, that's something that I've pushed to look for, but again, it's like growing pains of a startup. It's like, there's so many things to do and you have to really pick your battles based on bandwidth. But yeah, that's really cool. I didn't know Zeal had a channel. I'll have to tune in this Friday.
Find it.
Got a couple of people that joined us a few minutes ago. Will Johnson and AJC are on Twitch. Mark from Discord is in the YouTube stream. I was doing more work on, well, I guess it's selfishly stuff. So it's right now it's in the Learn Build Teach bot because it has a Node.js backend. And so I created an API endpoint to generate the HTML for my newsletter. So it grabs the recent shares from the community, and then it grabs the recent episode of Compress from the RSS feed, and it formats all that in HTML that I can copy and paste into Podia for my newsletter. And I'm working on adding, this will be relevant for you, Amy. I have an API token. I just got an API token for Google API to query YouTube videos, so I can query my most recent couple of videos and then format those as well, and have all that just kind of dump out and again, just copy and paste and have that be the majority of the newsletter. I had something similar set up before, and I changed some things and never fully updated it. So that'll help me generate newsletters quicker.
Also, did you see where a review is closing? So I'm sure you're glad you're back on Podia.
I know. Yeah. I just sent a message about that in the Programming YouTubers Discord. I know Jesse Codestacker, he was the reason that I ended up moving over, and then I moved back to Podia a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And so I've been, or maybe it's been a while now, a few months at least. So yeah, now I'm in a good spot where I don't have to do another migration.
What other questions do you have, Jacob?
Let's see, not many. I guess my main other big thing is and this is really, I know this is probably really difficult to answer, but like what overall, how do you build an audience, and like what have you used, or what tactics have you used that have been successful? Maybe what things have you tried that have not been successful? I've never really built an audience of any notable size, so I'm really curious what has worked in the past for y'all.
Can I ask you a question first?
What
do you want to be known for? And you could be as generic or specific, or you could say, I really don't know, but do you have any idea what you want to be known for?
I think I really have loved always creating content around and talking about Svelte. And given that it's my full-time job and it's becoming really popular, I feel like there's a huge need for content of all shapes and sizes about Svelte. Yep. A lot of the open source stuff I'm building is based around Svelte or it's part of the ecosystem. So I think that's probably it.
Cool. So this is one of my favorite pieces of advice that started with Wes Boss. So I got to talk to him on the phone like 5 years ago when I was wanting to get back into content, and I was like, "Hey, can I just ask you some questions?" And he gave me his phone number, which I didn't. I should have saved because now it's not cool because I don't have his number. But anyway, we talked on the phone, and one of the things he basically said was the idea of fake it until you make it. And it's not like it's not really fake it. It's just like if you want to be known for a thing, you need to tell people that that's your thing. Like you need to be posting about that thing. So I actually got this advice from a former coworker at Microsoft as well, where I was like, yeah, I'm trying to make this transition into like web stuff instead of .NET, which is what I'd done at Microsoft. And he went to my GitHub behind the scenes and he was like, you don't have anything on here about JavaScript. So do stuff about JavaScript and share that. And so I have your Twitter profile up, and the most recent things you've retweeted, which are all relevant today, because Svelte Kit 1.0 just got merged, but you posted several times about that, which is relevant to the thing that you want to be known for. So it's audience is like all about consistency and showing up where developers are. And where are developers? They're in streams, they're on Twitch, they're in Discord, they're in person if you have access to that sort of stuff. So it's all about showing up and showing up consistently where people know that this is at least one of the things that you spend a lot of time doing. And I don't have like a super specific niche. Like I'm kind of JavaScript across the board, which does include SvelteKit and a bunch of other things. SvelteKit being something that I do enjoy spending a lot of time with. But whatever it is, show up consistently on whatever platform or multiple. Show up consistently and show up consistently talking about the thing that you want to be, that you want people to know you for, and just tell them you do this thing.
I think consistency is like the huge part. Like even if, I mean, you kind of had a definitive answer on what you wanted to be known for, but for anybody that's listening and still like, I'm trying to figure that out, then I would just say consistency. And you'll find people that will flock and like identify and resonate with some of the things that you say. And you know, those will be your people and you'll naturally gravitate towards those topics. So even if you hadn't found your thing, I would say just continue to publish and put stuff out there. I don't know if you're a reader. I am, and I have loved, or even if you don't want to read, I would recommend the audiobook, but The Practice by Seth Godin is fantastic. And he talks all about how important it is to just put stuff out there. One of the examples that he used that really resonated with me was he was talking about how it seems like one of the most cush jobs in the world would be to be a cartoonist or an illustrator for the New Yorker. I mean, all you have to do is like draw one picture and submit it and you get money, right? But he was saying that the ones that really do the best and succeed are the ones that submit like stacks and stacks of cartoons and illustrations. And it's just that one that you happen to see. And so it's the same thing for us is we need to be constantly putting out content, whether that's in streams or tweets or blog posts or whatever that is. And that one will resonate with someone. And that's the one that will get picked up and that will help really grow your audience. But it's that everyday consistency that allows you to be able to submit and put out that type of work.
Love it. There's a question in the chat, by the way, from Mohammed saying, finding it hard to find a new job. Any advice, please? So not necessarily the topic of the conversation, but this is career conversation. So a few things. One, don't just blind apply to stuff, meaning you just go to LinkedIn and send in your resume. You're just going to get super defeated. Start to reach out to people and see if you can have coffee chats or conversations with hiring managers or developers on the team that you want to work on, and ask what they do and how they find the team and how they enjoy the work and the company and the culture and all those things. Because you being a personal connection to someone is much more likely to give you a shot at an interview. The other thing is like investing in the community is always huge for me. Investing in the community, again, could be Discord, it could be Twitter, it could be a lot of different places. It could be in-person meetups, especially if you're like looking for roles in your area. Then you want to be involved in that community. So whatever meetups or conferences or events or whatever are going on in your area, go and show up and be there. I am definitely hit or miss with like the benefit of recruiters, but you might as well take advantage of talking to one. Amy and I have a favorite one, and Taylor Desson, who's really good. But
I was going to reference them too.
Yeah. But get with a recruiter, because like if they have an idea of what you're looking for and they like passively find stuff, that's pretty good too. But I think it's more the ownership on you to start networking, and that just means like reaching out to people directly, having career chats, and being involved in the community and getting feedback along the way of what it is you're missing, and go and tackling those issues. If you get feedback that like you don't have enough experience in JavaScript and that's the kind of job you want, go and spend 2 months heads down trying to build something in JavaScript and going through courses and training, etc. But figure out what those gaps are that are holding you back and go and tackle them heads on.
Yeah, Taylor actually posted a clip from Magnolia JS that James and I were both at in September, and I'll include a link. It'll come through as James. But in this particular tweet is a clip of him talking about finding a job and some of the things that you can be doing, like reaching out to people. He's like, if you just reach out to one person a day, that's awesome. And usually that job is going to be someone that you already know within your existing network. And even for people that are like, well, I don't know any techies, I'm here or wherever, everybody needs a website generally, and everybody needs some type of web application or some kind of web presence that you can potentially tap into.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like Twitter, especially. That's the whole reason I have my job right now. I guess like it's kind of two things: is networking on Twitter has been important for me, but also engaging with the community, like James said. I engage with Svelte Society Twitter account all the time, and so Twitter as algorithm happened to surface a retweet from the VP of tech at the company I now work at, being like, we're hiring Svelte developers. And so I DM'd him, and 2 weeks later I had a job. And I find that people's stories to tech are a lot more like that than, oh, I applied on Indeed, went through the process and got it. Especially at startups, like we have a insane referral program where most of our new employees are coming from referrals because we're incentivized to find good people and bring them to the hiring managers. I completely agree. Networking is key. And yeah, recruiters are great. I found when they're good, they're great.
When they're good.
And I think like you said, having someone in your court when they're good at it is amazing. It's so helpful. But they can also be bad at their job, which I feel like is just the nature of the industry. I don't know if there's necessarily a solution, but
the other thing that Taylor said was just follow up is key. You can't expect somebody to remember you. Not that, they don't like you or anything like that. They just have a lot on their plate. And if you can continue to initiate that also shows your go-getter and I'm being serious about this opportunity. And I really, really do want this job. Got kind of grandiose in my gesturing.
I get so excited I knock stuff down all the time. Jacob, in the last 60 seconds or so, any last comments or short question?
No, I don't. I appreciate your time answering my questions. Hopefully, I have a bunch of time off at the end of the year, so I'm gonna try to get a stream set up and maybe start at the beginning of the year doing it for real.
One thing that I want to point out is I want to point out what you did not say, which I'm actually kind of surprised. I'm a gearhead and I love talking about tech. And you did not ask a single question about tech. And so I just want to point out too, you really don't need it. This stuff's fun and nice. I enjoy my toys, but you don't need that in order to get started. So I just wanted everybody else to hear that.
Yeah. I feel like, and I feel like because of my technical background, like I used to work in live video and all that sorts of stuff. Like, it's kind of amazing to me how much people think that is like super important. But like if you have like your earbud microphone and
not wireless,
earbud microphone and a computer with a screen recording, like that's good enough. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Cool. Well, thank you for allowing us to make this public. It's always good to talk to you and send links when you do start streaming. I'll see if I can pop in. And for people, for reference, really quickly, how quickly can I grab your Twitter handle?
Oh, it's right down there too.
Like it's on the thing.
Yeah, that's true too. But just like direct links are good. Anyway, so go and follow Jacob and encourage him to do streaming on SvelteKit and other things. But Joshua is a gearhead as well. Mohammed, thanks for joining, asking questions, and participating. Appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and call it, and we'll see everybody later. Have a good day. Also, go World Cup.